Why is it important to see a health practitioner for Chinese medicine and not just get the medicine over the counter or do these like home remedy type of treatments? That's what we're going to be talking about in the video today. I'm Marie Hopkinson. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner. I'm a herbalist, acupuncturist. I've been doing this for a long time now, probably more than 18 years. And over that time, it's very common for me to see people just in life, and especially since I've been doing this channel, to sort of want a how-to or a home remedy for something. As a person who has a genuine interest in helping people, and I want to see people get better, I want to see people's health problems resolve. I want to be able to help people with those things, but sometimes there just isn't that simple remedy. And so in this video, I'm going to sort of talk a little bit about why and how you can utilize some of those home remedies, but also to know why it's not just as simple as, hey, use this one thing and that one weird trick, why that one weird trick never works, and how it's part of a whole, a whole plan and a whole scheme. So one of the reasons people can sometimes want that one trick or that one weird thing, or it might not be a one weird thing. They just want to know, well, what foods could I have, or what could I have this, or should I have more of that? Because most of the health problems that we have, as in terms of chronic health issues, did just come there overnight. They didn't just come there. You didn't just wake up and suddenly have that problem. Now, when you do have those issues, a lot of the time, food treatments, food remedies, or these home kind of remedies can help. And often, science, the other side of science, like the Western medicine science, would say, well, if you just rested, it might have gotten better by itself anyway. And that's totally true. And maybe you will just get better by itself, and you might not have needed to use those home remedies. Maybe the home remedy treatments or the foods, and particularly things that come to mind the most are things like when you think about colds and flu. So lots of people have like warm lemon and honey drinks when they get a cold or a flu. It's just a natural home remedy that lots of people know. It's not specific to Chinese medicine. It's just a well-known kind of thing. And that lessens the feeling of how sick you might feel, right? It might make you feel a little bit better. It might make, your throat feel a little less scratchy, that kind of thing. And is it helping to cure the problem? Well, we don't really know, because the problem would have most likely resolved by itself. Would it be able to lessen the amount of days that person's sick or not? We just don't know, because there's no research on people who have had colds or flus and have just sipped on lemon and honey. And that kind of stuff. So one of those issues and those arguments is a good argument to say, well, there's no point in wasting money on things that aren't proven to work, let's say. So I guess the main purpose of me making this channel is to inform people about how Chinese medicine works, how a practitioner thinks about things, so that you can understand have a bit more knowledge about, be informed about the process, and be informed about how complex it is. I guess so that for one thing, you do appreciate the complexity that a practitioner has to think about, in seeing you. A big difference between seeing a naturopath, let's say, to a Chinese herbalist is in that way of thinking. So if you went to a naturopath and you had a deficiency in something, then they may look for a natural way to supplement that deficiency. So let's say you have an iron deficiency and your doctor said, well, you need to take an iron supplement. Now, a naturopath may well also recommend an iron supplement, but they may also advise you in foods that are really high in iron, or a particular kind of diet that helps your body absorb the iron better, or look at reasons why your body isn't absorbing the iron and treat it from that way. So the iron deficiency person might have other symptoms that a Chinese medicine practitioner would say, well, that means you have this pattern of disharmony. Now, not always, but commonly they might have a pattern of, let's say, blood deficiency. And so a Chinese herbalist would go about looking at that patient in a very different way, and the way we would use herbs and things like that. Now, often these kind of systems can work parallel alongside of each other, but it's not just like a person, it's not like a person comes in with one problem and I say, well, here's the herbs, here's the formula for cold and flu, here's the formula for thyroid problems, here's the formula for this. And then that brings me to the next point, is why things are harder to do by yourself, because a lot of the time practitioners using a formula of herbs, well, 99.9% of the time it's a formula of herbs, not just one herb. There's only very few formulas which are just like one herb in the formula. So if licorice or ginger or cinnamon or something like that are in your herbs, they're working alongside other herbs for a particular purpose, and the dosage of those herbs is really important in the synergistic nature of how those herbs kind of work in together. So it's sort of massively complicated, and that's why sometimes on this channel I can't give people individual advice on, okay, this herb or this food would be good for you, because one, we don't know your Chinese medicine diagnosis, and secondly, it's kind of reckless for a practitioner, I guess, to give you advice like that, because it's not necessarily that one thing in isolation. That might be part of a strategy of treatment that you need to go through to be able to get back to that state of balance. And so that's why I want to encourage people who are watching this to go and see a practitioner, to stay with your practitioner, to stick with your Chinese herbalist, stick with your acupuncturist, and follow that journey along. I'm going to make some other videos on the channel about, maybe when you should seek a second opinion from a Chinese herbalist or a practitioner. And I've also made a video about how to find a good practitioner. And these are just things that I think you should be looking for. Things like location and convenience and stuff like that are part of it, but just also looking into, is that practitioner a person that studies, that is in continuous study? Is that person a practitioner that is dedicated to improvement, like continuous improvement? And their personality and things like that can often be the case of why you'll get more out of seeing someone than somebody else. And that's, in medicine we call that rapport. Like, do you feel a rapport with the practitioner? Means, do you get along with them, and do you respect them, and you're going to trust what they say, and so therefore you're more likely to do the things that they say, and work together and learn together. So I really want to encourage people who are on the channel commenting about those things, that I'm not ignoring you. Sometimes it's almost impossible for me to put an answer there and say, like, if someone said, hey, I've got a thyroid problem, or I've got this or that, what one herb could I use, or what remedy could I use, or what things could I include in my diet? For one thing, we just don't think about it like in terms of those Western medicine conditions. We think about it in terms of those Chinese medicine conditions. So you might find some videos where I'll say, well, if you've got dampness, you should avoid these foods or eat these foods and things like that. But then again, it's not just necessarily that one food. So that's really, really important. This is just a really quick video, and an encouragement to people to stick with the process, stick with the plan. Don't just abandon your practitioner, and abandon that process, because it's not a one fix thing for most things in Chinese medicine. It's a process, and it's really nice when things get better quickly, or they show some signs of improvement quickly. But sometimes they don't, and so you need to discuss with your practitioner, how many times should I come in, or how long should I give this course of treatment before you think I should, give it, like, how many times is enough times to know whether I've given it a good enough go, because it's about the dose of the treatment that you have, not necessarily the actual, it's also about the dose of the treatment. And there's more and more research coming out to show those things, to support that in certain cases, in certain kind of conditions. That's part of why research is good, because it shows, okay, if a certain number of people had 5 treatments versus a group of people that had 10 treatments, what was the outcomes? Was there difference in those kind of, in looking at lots of different studies that have been done over those times? And your practitioner might be able to advise you about looking at some of those things and interpreting that data to help, to help inform your case, whether that's useful for your case or not. So that's where research is very useful for informing patients about how many treatments they should have. Otherwise, you're relying on the practitioner's anecdotal evidence, and look, that's also useful to know. It's better than not knowing it all. So the practitioner might say, okay, you need to have 5 treatments, or they might say, I recommend you to have 10 treatments, but if it gets better in 5, well, you don't need to keep coming in if the problem is resolved, let's say. And that would be great if it did resolve like that. And I've certainly had some patients where I've really, using my experience, I would have thought maybe 5 or 6 treatments was needed, but then, their symptoms were very much resolved by 2 or 3 treatments. And they don't need to come back in. And I'm not the kind of practitioner that says, well, you've just got to keep coming in for the sake of it. That's just silly. But there might be other things that patients want to work on after that, the course of that treatment. So yeah, sometimes with Chinese medicine, well, most of the time with Chinese medicine, is very specific to the pattern of disharmony, and really only your practitioner can give you that diagnosis. So you need to go and see a practitioner to kind of be able to do that and to get that, you know, that level of expertise for them to advise you on that. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. So